All right, guys, let's look at agencies quickly. I'm not going to go into depth in this because this really requires you guys to read it and pick ones that you want to focus on. But I'll just give you an overview and remind you of the importance of this. So I've said it quite a few times that we haven't had a agencies question in any significant capacity for a long time. So this is the 2003 HSC exam. This question says, designers often utilize a range of agencies to facilitate their design development. Explain the role of two of those agencies and how you could use them in your design development of this design, which is obviously like a stimulus up here, but that's okay. Use examples of designers or designs you have studied and their use of these agencies to support your answer. So you need to remember which ones you talked about in your task 1 for your innovation case study, and also know them enough that you could just relate it to any hypothetical design or to another just product designer that you can easily talk about, like Apple or something like that. Now, this was only a short answer question worth 5 marks, but it hasn't been asked in that long. You never know; it could pop up as an extended response. So I just think it's really risky to not know agencies. So the ones that we always do are IP Australia, because that's our classic. So I'll go to my Prezi. So IP Australia, so this is a government agency. So if you just Google these agencies and you can see that they come up with this little like emblem, then you know that it's an Australian government agency. So IP standing for Intellectual Property Australia. It's a federal government agency. So it's federal, so it covers all of Australia, not just New South Wales, that grants patents and trademarks. So it's all about protecting the intellectual property of the designer. So in my song for factors affecting success, I remember A Whole New World, I was like, success or fail, you might just fail if you don't know the ACCC or IP to keep us safe and protect your design. So IP is to protect your design. So you can do that through a patent, which is like legally, you have to buy it, it's expensive, but you are legally buying the right to your own process or technology that you've developed. You can't patent a brand or a logo, that's a trademark. A patent is for the actual like product and the way that it mechanically works or functions. So it gives you exclusive commercial rights to your invention so that you have a monopoly over the market for a period of time. But it is a period of time. So you can have 20-year patents. I'm pretty sure you can get like just like an 8-year patent, because I'm sure I read that like James Dyson, he like just buys the 8-year ones or something like that, because his perspective is like, after 8 years, I've like, sorry. After 8 years, I'm well and truly onto another design, and another concept. So I don't care if Godfrey's vacuums or whatever utilize my technologies after that, because I've already made all my money off it for the past 8 years. So it's okay if someone copies it now. But basically, it gives you the right and a monopoly over the market for a period of time. If they want that particular function or that technology, they have to buy it from you. You own it. That's very different to trademarks, because trademarks is all about identifying your brand so that you can grasp your collection of your own customers who support you. And so that's where it doesn't have to be a logo, but it often is a logo, but it can be a letter, a number, it can be the word, a phrase. So it's the things that like when we see it, we're like, oh yeah, I know them. Aspects of packaging, that's where you get like the color of Cadbury's Tiffany blue and stuff like that. And then they say like you're in breach. So remember we looked at this. What would it be? Trademarks. Aussie Flower Business was sent a notice of infringement by Tiffany & Co. for breaching their trademark because they called their color Australian paper. There we go. So she makes these floral arrangements in paper, and she called that Tiffany blue on her as a product color that customers can choose from. And they were like, you know what? You can't call it that because that's us. Only we can say Tiffany blue. So yeah, that was a trademark infringement. We have also I saw on TikTok, literally like yesterday.
Earlier this year, I designed and 3D printed my own pair of gloves inspired by Croc shoes. I never sold them or anything. They were just for me. But then Croc sent me a cease and desist and told me to stop.
So there you go. That would have been probably patent infringement, I would say.
After my post yesterday about the gloves I made, people wanted to know, could I actually put them on? I think that these could be probably the hottest fashion trend of 2020. And yep, this actually moves. Would you wear them? Let me know.
Anyway, so you get the gist. Yeah, so on this slideshow we can see trademarks are to distinguish your business or products from competitors. It makes you stand out from competitors. Now, there are sort of legal and ethical issues that come into play here. So you can bring it into an ethics question. Unfortunately, Lucas Pawpaw failed to trademark their red. They trademarked their logo, but they didn't trademark the color red. And so other copycat pawpaw manufacturers were like, you know what, let's profit on the good reputation of Lucas. Everyone knows Lucas is a great pawpaw brand. If we make our packaging red and black and possibly even have like a logo in a similar place and stuff, people will think it's Lucas, or at least like a similar, or like maybe like one of their ranges or something like that, and they will buy ours. So Lucas has put out this thing on their website saying like, please don't support the copycats. They are it's legally it's fine legally because that it's not trademarked. The color is not trademarked, so they can use red, but it's like morally and ethically wrong. So it's kind of like an ethical loophole. So that's a good example you can talk about. There's stuff here on the PowerPoint that you can also look at that's got to do with patents. There's the whole Samsung versus Apple patent war, where Samsung had to pay Apple like all these billions of dollars because they were infringement of like something to do with the 2-finger scroll or something. So yeah, it's a legit thing. So it's a real legal protection of your property, of your intellectual property, the property of your mind, your ideas. You're protecting your own ideas. Going back to trademark for a second, there's lots of trademark infringement examples that try to profit off the consumer confidence of existing brands. So I think this is like in Queens or something like that, McDowell's, they are in infringement notice of the registered trademark Golden Arches of McDonald's, as well as like a very similar name. And even the you guys probably wouldn't remember, but like the McDonald's used to have this kind of hutty looking shops back in the 90s. And the Big Mick, like it's just so dirty. Super 7, clearly a trademark infringement of 7-Eleven. So yeah, I don't know if they're in trouble or what's happening. Okay, moving on. I'll go back to the textbook for a second. Standards Australia is a good one because it's an example of a non-government. So this is not actually a government organisation, but Standards Australia set standards for industry. So they could be standards to do with reliability, to do with safety, of the way that something should operate. If an innovation meets these standards, it's more likely to promote consumer confidence and global competitiveness, as well as financial support from investors. So if you need an investor and you can say, oh, we meet Australian standards, because Australian standards are really, really high. On a global scale, Australian standards are well regarded. So it's thus advantageous for innovators to ensure that their products meet Australian standards. So it's not legally binding, but you're probably not going to be as successful if you don't operate according to Australian standards. However, there are some that are required, and they might be certain safety ones. Now, the problem is if for you as a designer, if you don't meet Australian standards, who's going to get you? The ACCC is going to get you. Because if you, like I said before, if you decide that you're going to hurt your customers, then you're not going to be in a really good place, are you? The ACCC is going to hunt you down. I'll go to that slide. Where are we going? ACCC. Australian Competition and Consumer Commission is an independent Commonwealth statutory authority whose role is to enforce the Competition and Consumer Act 2010 and a range of additional legislation that promote competition, fair trading, and regulate national infrastructure. Okay, that is such a wordy, that is not a good summary. Anyway, the point is they're all about keeping consumers safe. So in our PowerPoint, if we go to ACCC, this is all about keeping Aussie consumers safe from the products we buy, keeping businesses honest as well. So we've got lots of product recalls. I've got lots of links there that you can look at. You can go to the ACCC recalls list and look at all the things that are currently recalled. These were some things earlier. I don't know if these links still work because I made this PowerPoint for the trials, but for example, this is a little product that was out there at Kmart or something, but unfortunately they might suffocate babies to death. So the ACCC was like, nah, take it off the shelves, mate. We all remember the Beatos or bindies, the things that you spray, and then they had like LSD or something in them. So kids were like getting one high and two like pretty much dying. So yeah, you can't kill your customers basically, and the ACCC is going to make sure that's happening. They also deal with misleading conduct, so cracking down on misleading advertising, such as things in the fine print that is, it's very deceptive. And that's when I talked about the example with the Target, and there's a link there for you as well. Other agencies that I definitely recommend that you look at in particular, this one is one that's not in the textbook, the Department of Industry, Innovation and Science. It's really new. I might have talked about it before, I can't remember, but it was literally established in October 2016. And this was started because of Australia got lazy with their innovations. Like, we used to be leaders of innovation, and then we just got too lazy. It was like the economy was like, oh, I don't know what's happening with it. We just go through our prime ministers like there's nothing else. It was just like such, uncertainty. And so businesses that would normally take risks and be like, yeah, let's develop this. This is cool. Let's look at this in research and development. They weren't willing to risk the money because they just weren't sure of what would happen 5 years down the track and stuff like that. So the government created this agency as the government's new innovation and science agenda. So the idea is that they provide assistance and advice on innovation and research matters. They will help you to get grants. I think I put it in the other slideshow, did I? I think I put it in political. Yeah. They will help to get to give you grants, fundings, and incentives if you're a company that's willing to maybe be a bit innovative. So they're trying to promote and encourage Australian companies and designers to actually go ahead and look into and research and develop innovations and emerging technologies. And like I said in the previous video, right now the sustainable technologies and anti-terrorism border protection, they're high on the agenda for the government. So it's highly likely that there'll be more kind of incentives and stuff for those kind of things. But yeah, I definitely recommend having an idea of this particular industry because not many other people will talk about it. So you'll have an advantage there. WHS is definitely, it's just like a no-brainer. You need to know that one. So Work Health and Safety Act 2011 is enforced by Safe Work New South Wales, used to be Work Cover Authority. Safe Work New South Wales, this is one that you can bring into an ethical question to do with like offshore manufacturing, because in Australia, under WHS Act 2011, the employer or the PCBU, persons conducting a business or undertaking, the employer must provide a safe working environment. They must provide all PPE, personal protective equipment. They must take all complaints about any kind of WHS safety workplace matters serious. Appointing a representative, WHS representative, if the business is under 20 people. If they're over 20 people, they have to have a WHS committee to actually discuss and act on WHS things that are reported. Now, if that was a thing in Bangladesh, then they wouldn't have this factory collapse, because the ladies were reporting cracks in the walls for days and days and days. No one was doing anything because there's no mandatory reporting. There's no legislation where anyone has to act on this. So it becomes an ethical issue if we're getting things manufactured in offshore manufacturing facilities overseas, and we're not protecting our workers because they don't have the legislation that protects them over there. So it's an issue.